today we will understand about the third function of management after planning and controlling and organizing, which is staffing. Staffing basically means filling and keeping filled. This basically means filling the vacant job positions in an organization and ensuring that the same position remains filled. So, this is regarding job position. It is a process through which employees are first recruited, then selected and trained for job. Till organizing, the things were conceptual. From staffing, you actually are getting into the human aspect and you are calling employees matching with the requirements of your job. So, in this recruitment, selection and training is done. Now, let us understand the basic nature of staffing function. Firstly, it is an integral part of management. Secondly, it is concerned with human resource. Because you are calling and selecting people, so it is concerned with human resource. Then it is very tactful, as you need to get in touch with different kinds of people. Then it is a managerial function. It is a continuous activity. And lastly, it is concerned with placing right men at right job. So, these are few basic characteristics of the staffing function of management. Then there are certain key points that ensure effective staffing. So, we call them keys to successful staffing. Now, these keys are: first, one should keep it objective centric. Secondly, use structured method, means go for a method that is properly designed, that what after what will be done. Third is developing a plan. Now, these are three keys for successful staffing that will ensure that the staffing function that you are doing is actually beneficial and will prove to be helpful at later stages. So, with this we can very well summarize that why do we need staffing in any managerial organization. So if someone asks why staffing, so some of the most obvious reasons are: first, it limits liability, because with this you can clearly know which person is liable for which activity. Then it reduces hiring cost. Once you have planned, so you won't commit hiring mistakes. Then it creates consistency in hiring. So these are the three main benefits for which staffing function plays an important role. After this, one very important part of the staffing function that we need to understand is known as manpower planning. Now this is again self-explanatory. Manpower is the people that you want to appoint, and planning is deciding in advance how you will call and then train the manpower for your organization. So this means putting right number of people right kind of people at right place. So manpower planning is putting the right number and right kind of people at right place. After this, there is a particular procedure that has to be followed to ensure proper staffing. So the procedure is as below. First is analyzing current manpower. Analyzing current manpower means first you analyze how the people who are currently working, are they properly given the work, are they right in number. So once you analyze, you come to know about the manpower inventory. Why we call it manpower inventory? Because inventory is a stock that is useful in present as well as in future. So you are talking in terms of manpower, so it is a manpower inventory. After this, make future forecasts. Once you are clear with the present situation, you can easily forecast for the manpower needs of future. After this, you develop an employment program. And finally, you design a training program. So these are the sequential steps that need to be followed to ensure that proper staffing is being done. Now these are basically the steps involved in manpower planning, as it is a very crucial component of your staffing function. Now let us understand certain points highlighting importance of manpower planning. Importance of manpower planning. First, it is a key managerial function, means it is a very important managerial function. Second, it ensures efficient resource utilization. Thirdly, it ensures good motivation. Fourthly, better human relations. and lastly higher productivity. So these are 5 points explaining importance of manpower planning. After this, let's come to human resource planning. Or a flow chart discussing how human resource planning takes place in a sequential order. In human resource planning, the very initial step is your recruitment, selection and training. Then you have integration with job. Once people are trained, they need to understand how that training would be beneficial in doing the tasks related to job. So this means integration with job. After this, you need to see that whether the people require training and development based so as to match their skill set with the job. Then depending on this training and development, there has to be performance assessment. Means finally you need to check whether the employees who are trained, they are working according to the expectations or the objectives. After this, if their performance assessment is good, they are given compensation plus some additional benefits. And once you are giving them benefits, you are actually retaining manpower. Retaining means there can be termination if the person is not working properly, or there can be promotion if he is working in an excellent manner, and this is again linked to HRP. So this is the entire cycle in which human resource planning works. Coming to another important aspect in staffing function, which is known as job design. It means designing the job or deciding the contents of a job. Means if the person is employed for a particular job position, then what all tasks would he be asked to do? That is basically your job design. So there are certain factors that affect a particular job design. One is your scope of job, means where all it is applicable. Second is a full time challenge, means if the person is working at a position for full time, what is the work that he needs to do. Third, it requires high managerial skills. This again is a factor that affects your job design. Then your organizational requirements. What are the needs that the management wants from this particular job position. Then individual preferences. It is not always true that the person whom you select is happy with the job design. So it again depends on the individual preferences. Then it also depends on the organizational structure. Seventh is your control system that is prevailing in the organization. And lastly, advancement in technology. So all these are important factors that put a great impact on the job design. this was about job design. Then once the job is designed, next step is to call the people who are interested in doing this job and then finally select and train them. So the next step is recruitment, selection and training. These are somewhere linked, so we take them together: recruitment, selection and of course training. Now out of these three, recruitment means creating a pool of candidates. Like when we see any particular job position, maybe on an online job portal, so we apply for the job and then we appear for the interview. So this means they are actually have created a pool of applications. So recruitment is restricted to that level only. Then finally when the person is selected for that job position, that is your selection process. This means selecting out of the pool and the story doesn't end on selecting the person. Then again the person has to be trained according to the organizational requirements. So this means the person selected is trained as per requirement. So this is the basic concept of your recruitment, selection and training. Now for recruitment there are several sources, as we all know, and these sources can be categorized into two broad categories. So basically the two categories are your internal sources. This means from those employees who are already working, and from certain external sources. This includes your job portals and all. So internal sources, there may be promotions, means you are promoting an already existing employee to that level for which you are looking for the new one. Then there is departmental exam, wherein exam is conducted matching to check the compatibility with that particular job position. Then you have transfers. Then there is retirement, means you can call back a retired person matching with that job position. Then internal advertisement, and finally recommendation from the employees. So these are few very common yet useful internal sources of recruitment. Coming to those external sources, we have management consultancies who help to find the right candidate. Then we have your employment agencies who help and they bridge the gap between the job seeker and the job provider. Then we have campus recruitments, for which the placement cell is responsible in colleges. After this, newspaper ads, then internet ads, and also walk-in interviews. So this is how you can categorize the sources of recruitment into internal and external. So this was all about recruitment. Moving on to job description. After this job design and recruitment, we move to job description. This means it will set out how a particular employee will fit into the organization. So this is basically a stage in which you are creating a fit between the person and the job. So it basically clarifies two details. First, to whom the employee would be responsible, and secondly, for whom employee is responsible. To whom and for whom. So these are the two broad information that we get through job description. Followed by job description means the person has been finally selected, trained, and he has been created match with the job. After this, there is induction and training. This is an HR practice that has a deep impact on the employee satisfaction as well as the performance. Induction is the basic introduction of employee with the organization. This means you will show him the infrastructure, you will tell him about his subordinates, superiors, and also this means a basic out and out information about the job and the organization. So this we call as induction, or you may also call it as orientation. And training is basically regarding the skills for job. So you need to train the employee about the skills or the basic things that he must know to perform best regarding that job position. So this is all about induction and training. Now your training and development process has several aspects. So the training and development process can be understood as, it can be different for those who are motivated employees. It has to be different so as to ensure that you are effectively doing it. Then it has to be different for skilled employees because they would be needing training on different aspects than those who are unskilled. Then for competent employees who are actually not only good in their work but they are highly competent too. Then for new employees who are very much new to the work as well as the environment. For unskilled employees, and for potential employees, means who have the potential to work, they just need a little bit of initiative and training. So these are the different aspects of a training and development process. Then again, your training can be of two types. It can be on the job, wherein you are training the employees right at the place wherein they need to work, and next is off the job, where the person is taken to a different setup wherein only training sessions are taken and he is not actually performing the job. So the training and development process can be held on the spot, on the job, or off the job. Once the person has been trained, he starts performing, he gets into the system. Then a very important HR practice which comes after the performance, and it is known as your performance appraisal. All this is related with the staffing function, as this is all related to the employee and his work routine. So, it is a procedure in which employee's performance is reviewed. Employee performance is reviewed by one or more supervisors, because they only can best understand whether the person is working up to the mark or not. So, in this the performance is reviewed by the supervisors. So, when we talk about the performance appraisal process, performance appraisal process, the aspect which we look are perform, means when the employee performs, then his performance is assessed, then it is reviewed, then again a new plan is developed depending on the review, and then the same is followed by the performance. So, this is a circle of your performance appraisal. Now, you must be wondering why you need to do this performance appraisal. So, there are certain reasons showing the benefits of performance appraisal. One, to maintain records. You need to maintain records of every employee, as these help in the time of promotion. Second, to identify strengths and weaknesses. To identify strengths and weaknesses. Third, to provide feedback, because then only you can see where is the loophole and where the person needs training. To review and retain training programs, review and retain training programs. Then again, for performance appraisal, there are two types of categories in which it can be done. Few methods are traditional and few are modern. The traditional methods of performance appraisal include reports, essay, ranking, checklist and group approval. These were the traditional methods, and the modern methods are assessment center, human resource accounts, appraisal through MBO. So, these are your modern and traditional performance appraisal method. This was the last step of staffing function.